Hello friends and fellow bibliophiles. Today is the first day of Winterween. And if you happen to be new to my channel, I'm Kat and I am super excited about this week-long readathon hosted by Gabby at Gabby Reads, where you are basically reading books with spooky vibes. So it's sort of like Halloween during the winter time. And I will be vlogging my week of Winterween, and I want to start it off by sharing my TBR with you. I have chosen 5 books for this week, 1 for each prompt, and the first one is to read a book in the dark or at night, and I have chosen Dear Laura by Gemma Amor. I'm excited to read my first Gemma Amor book. I received this book from my bestie Kelsi at Slime and Slashes, along with a box of other horror books. So excited to get to read another book out of that box. But yeah, that cover, not quite sure what the tooth is doing in her hand, but it's kind of grossing me out a little bit. For number 2 is to read a horror or thriller, and I've chosen my first Darcy Coates, Voices in the Snow. This is going to be perfect, especially for this weekend, because even though we don't have any snow happening here in Louisiana, it is cold and miserable right now. For prompt number 3, which is to read a book with a house on the cover or in the title, I have chosen a middle grade horror book. And it is the first in the Shadow House series. It's called The Gathering. This is by Dan Pawlowski. I've read something by him before, but this cover, very creepy. Very excited to start a new series. And then for number 4, read a horror book published 5 or more years ago. And I am actually doing a reread, and that is of Carrie by Stephen King. I've read this a couple of times, but I'm excited to revisit it. In 2024, it was its 50th anniversary. Can you believe that? 50 years. Let's see, 1974, I was 5 years old, so I can't believe that. But anyway, I'm very excited to revisit Carrie. I love the story. I think it's going to be a good time. And then last but not least, read a novella, manga, or listen to a spooky audiobook. And I've decided to continue with Demon Slayer. I am on volume 3. This is by Koyo Harugatogi. Please excuse my pronunciation, but very excited to get back into Demon Slayer. So that is what I have planned for the week. Our weekend is going to be kind of dreary and gloomy. I don't have many plans. My birthday is tomorrow, but I don't have a lot planned except maybe dinner out with my hubby. So I should have plenty of reading time. At least that's my hope anyway. So let me go ahead and get started. Okay, y'all, I am sitting in my car, letting it warm up. It seems like the last couple of days, because of all this cold weather we're having, my car is kind of hesitating a little bit. It's probably cold. It's probably like, I don't want to leave my garage and go out into this cold weather. But I've decided I am going to brave this miserable cold weather so that I can go have lunch at one of my favorite restaurants in Hammond, which is Johnson's Kitchen. It is also the restaurant where my oldest son Barry works. So as soon as my car warms up, I will be on the road. It is freezing. I'm back in my car. Yes, waiting for it to heat up. So I figured I would just talk to y'all for a couple of minutes. As you can see, I brought home my dinner for tonight. Fridays are seafood stuffed potato night. So I decided to have the chicken bacon ranch fries for lunch. And then I ordered the seafood stuffed potato and some onion rings, homemade onion rings, as well as a slice of Mardi Gras cheesecake. That is what my hubby and I are gonna have for dinner. But as soon as my car warms up, I am going to get back on the road, get home, take care of my little doggies, and then I'm gonna start reading for Winterween. Hey shorty, it's my birthday. I'm gonna party like it's my birthday. I know, ridiculous, but I'm excited. It is my birthday. And it's also the second day of Winterween. And I wanted to give you a quick update because really not much has been going on as far as my reading for Winterween. Yesterday, I left the restaurant a little bit later in the afternoon. I went home fully expecting to feed my little doggies, make myself some tea, and then I was going to start reading Voices in the Snow by Darcy Coates, and none of that happened except I did feed my little doggies. Well, by the time I got home, I realized that my friend Alex at Frank Fiction was sprinting. So I decided to hop on and hang out with her for a couple of hours, and then Barry came home. And then we were watching Stranger Things, and then I was posting my picture for the Instagram prompt of the day. I was doing everything besides reading, and that's okay. I mean, it's fine. However, I did start Dear Laura last night because this is the book that I'm reading in the dark or at night. So when I got in bed, I went ahead and started Dear Laura. So let me tell you a little bit about this short little book. It says every year on her birthday, Laura gets a letter from a stranger. That stranger claims to know the whereabouts of her missing friend Bobby, but there's a catch. Isn't there always a catch? He'll only tell her what he knows in exchange for something personal. So, I only got to chapter 3, which is to page 13. Not very far. I was tired, I admit that. However, we are starting the story with Laura walking. I guess she's walking somewhere, I don't know, to meet this person that writes the letters. Not really sure. All I know is that she is going somewhere. She has a letter. It has some kind of code in it. And she doesn't care about what she has to do if it means that she can be reunited with her friend Bobby. We also find out what happens on the day that Bobby disappears. It's sort of like they're together, they're going to meet the boss, she forgets something, she goes back into her house, and when she comes out, he's gone. That tooth in the hand really kind of bothers me. So I'm wondering if this is the something personal. Instead of me making a cup of coffee and reading Voices in the Snow for a couple of hours this morning, I talked myself into starting to edit my Folklore February announcement video. The only thing is that I didn't get started right away because I had to update my iPad. But while it was updating, I took my Instagram picture for Winterween, which today it's books with orange and black spines. And then I started editing. My oldest son texted me. He had somewhere to go this morning to take care of something and the place was closed. So I had to help him try to figure out another place he could go to take care of what he had to do before he went to work. So that was done. And then my sister called to wish me happy birthday, which I was very excited she called. We talked for a little bit and then I went back to editing. I'm not finished yet, but almost. I have to make a couple of graphics and then I can upload that video. But I pretty much, that's how I spent my morning. And it was probably about noon. And I figured, you know what? I really need to get dressed and eat something for lunch. So I got dressed, and while I was getting dressed, I started Carrie by Stephen King, which this is a reread for me, but very excited because I am going to be listening to this on audiobook through Cloud Library, as well as reading it physically. It's not a very long book at all, but very excited to revisit. And the edition on Cloud Library is the 50th anniversary edition, and it has a new introduction by the author Margaret Atwood, which I found very interesting. And so I am on actually page 14, 15 actually. And look, if Heidi's watching, I'm using my Carrie bookmark that you sent me. Very excited. But anyway, I'm on 15, and basically what has happened is Carrie White, who is really doesn't fit in. She's bullied. She's bullied terribly. It's really awful what the girls in high school do to her. Well, she's been bullied probably her whole entire life. Carrie leads a very sheltered life. Her mother is like a religious fanatic, and she pretty much doesn't like Carrie. She's afraid of Carrie because Carrie actually has telekinetic powers. They're just not, they're dormant right now. And they're kind of, simmering. Not really dormant. They're simmering on the surface, I guess is the best way to say it. Because we do know that anytime she gets upset or angry, and just even when she was younger, there's a news story or clipping or something that talks about something happens to the house when she's 3 years old. But even when the incident happens in the shower at the school, there's inklings of it. And there's also something that happens in the principal's office. So we know that it's there, simmering on the surface, and it's just a matter of time before, she's had enough. I'm enjoying it. Love revisiting Carrie. Excited about listening to the audiobook. Sissy Spacek is the narrator. Someone had suggested that on YouTube one time. I think it might have been Zach. I'm not 100% sure. So I've listened to that. I ate lunch. Now I am ready. I've got my tea. And I've got my book. I am ready to start Voices in the Snow. So let me tell you what Voices in the Snow is all about. It says, no one escapes the stillness. Claire remembers the cold. She remembers abandoned cars and children's toys littered across the road. She remembers dark shapes in the snow and a terror she can't explain. And then nothing. When she wakes, aching and afraid in a stranger's gothic home, he tells her she was in an accident. He claims he saved her. Claire wants to leave, but a vicious snowstorm has blanketed the world in white, trapping them together, and there's nothing she can do but wait. And that's where I'm going to stop because I don't want to really know anything else about it. But I love this cover. I love that this is going to be wintry atmosphere, and it's gonna be, I guess, a combination of maybe horror and thriller. Not really sure. Like I mentioned earlier, this is my first Darcy Coates, so I'm hoping that I'm gonna enjoy it because I know she's quite popular. But anyway, those are my plans so far. I'm gonna read for a couple of hours, and later on this evening, hopefully early evening, my hubby and I are going to go out to dinner to celebrate my birthday, and we're going to try, I think, a new restaurant called The District, which is in Ponchatoula. We haven't been there before, and if all works out well, I'm going to get myself a fancy adult beverage in celebration also. quick update before I head out for my birthday dinner. I want to let you know how I'm doing with Voices in the Snow. I only made it to about page 33, chapter 5. I only read maybe about an hour. I was kind of dozing on and off, and then I was getting text messages from my friends wishing me happy birthday. So I didn't get as far as I thought I would. But so far, I have been introduced to Claire. She is in her car driving in a pretty major snowstorm. She is heading to her Aunt Marnie's house, who lives out in the country, because something has happened and the world is like falling apart. Don't really know what's going on quite yet, but she's making her way there. She can barely see. She's noticing some weird things on the way there, because the whole goal is for her to get her aunt, and if it's safe for them to drive out, they're going to try to get to her sister's house. Her sister's name is Beth. So as she's driving along, she ends up hitting something, and the next thing she knows, she is woken up in someone's home. And when she comes to, she realizes it's a man who's a few years older than she is. Well, she has been injured pretty badly, and she just decides, something's going on, but this person has taken care of me. They have bandaged me up, so it seems like it might be okay, but, why am I in his house? It's just very, very weird. Well, I think she makes some really poor decisions, because she tries to get out of her bed. She's going to try to get a poker from the fireplace. And I don't know what she thinks she's going to do to this man, because the way she describes a man, he's pretty healthy and capable of harming her, I guess. But don't know if he's just a good Samaritan or not at this point. We know his name is Doran, and he is living in a house that Claire never thought existed near this forest where she was traveling. So anyway, long story short, she decides to try to escape from the house. She is making so many dumb decisions. I'm just like, maybe it's not the most ideal situation that you're in, but first of all, the person helped you. They bandaged you up. You're in a safe, warm environment. So don't try to escape in the middle of a storm when you can barely walk in the snow. You can't even see what you're walking on. And wait until you get better and assess the situation and get to know this guy and see what his agenda is. And then maybe you could put a plan in place. I mean, you got to get yourself healthy, girl. But anyway, so that's where I'm at. And we're going to see where it goes from here, but right now she is not making the best decisions. I'm going to dinner with my hubby, and we might run some errands afterwards. I know he wants to go to Walmart and pick up a couple of things for dinner tomorrow. I'm going to get some cake mix and some icing to make myself a cake, because my boys are coming tomorrow. Well, my one son lives here already, but Andrew's coming tomorrow is what I should say. And so we're going to just kind of hang out and have lunch together, and then birthday cake. When I get back this evening, we probably will watch a movie or more of Stranger Things. And then if I have some time, I'll, pick up and read. But I'm probably going to switch to Dear Laura, since it will be dark. It'll be nighttime when I get back. It is Tuesday evening, and I can finally update y'all on what I've been getting up to with Winterween. I have been so busy, y'all. I did not anticipate being so busy over the weekend. I was celebrating my birthday. Not only did I go to dinner with my husband on Saturday night, but we also had kind of like a little mini party on Sunday. My dad and Andrew came over. We had a late lunch. Barry baked me a cake. So we really had a great time hanging out. So I would not trade that for anything. And then also trying to get stuff done on my channel. I got my Folklore February announcement video out. So just a lot of things in addition to work stuff. So yeah, not a lot of reading getting done, but I have been keeping up with my Instagram. I've been having a ball with taking the pictures for the prompts, and I even created a reel. So I was proud of myself. I don't do them very often because they do take me quite a bit of time. I'm not the most technologically savvy. However, I finished my first Winterween. I finished Carrie. Woot woot! Very exciting. I really enjoyed revisiting Carrie White. I know her story is not a happy one, but I have a lot of empathy for her. This is a 5-star read for me. It's one of my favorites of Stephen King's books. It's not a very long book. It's about 200 pages, and I'm very grateful that I listened to it on audiobook this time around. It is narrated by Sissy Spacek. She does a fantastic job. So if you've never listened to it on audiobook, I would highly recommend it. Even though I have read Carrie a couple of times, I'll be honest with you, I did not remember all of the details. I remembered the gist of it, and I'm almost like was thinking, did this happen in the movie or did this happen in the book? And when I would come to it in the book, it was a little bit different than how I remembered. So I do think I have watched the movie more recently than I have read the book last, but that's okay. I mean, there are a lot of similarities, but there are quite a few differences. In fact, Carrie White is very different in the book as far as how she physically looks than in the movie being portrayed by Sissy Spacek. And that's fine. I love the screen adaptation just as much as I love the book. But one of the things I had forgotten about was the structure of the book. I really love the structure. It's broken up into 3 parts, and there are interviews and news articles, as well as excerpts from books that were written about Carrie White and what happened in the community. And that's all interspersed in between the narrative. I really love the way Stephen King did that. This is Carrie's story, and we get a lot from her perspective, but I also love the fact that King will play the same scene over, but from different characters' perspectives. So I think that's very interesting. And that's where I think the news articles and excerpts from the books, as well as the eyewitness interviews, all come into play as well, because you get what's happened in the present moment, but you also see what's happening in the aftermath. I also like the hints that Stephen King gives. I don't know if hints is the right word, but he will just point blank say who's going to make it and who's not going to make it, but he doesn't tell you the how or when. And so that's really what keeps you intrigued and keep reading, at least for me anyway. I also like that you get Carrie's timeline. I had forgotten about that too. I always think about the fact when you're watching the movie, you're seeing her as a high school student. You're not really seeing her timeline for when she was a baby, but you learn a lot about how her powers were there and how they would come out in her, especially if she was upset or if her mom was getting a little bit too abusive physically or verbally. I mean, Carrie endured a lot from her mom. Her mom was just not mentally stable, and she really wanted to get rid of Carrie. I mean, that at the heart of it, because she just thought that Carrie was evil because Carrie had these telekinetic powers. I think that King captured the mean-spirited behavior of the girls towards Carrie at the beginning of the novel really well. They had an opportunity to kind of change their ways and help her out and support her. You would think females sticking together, but she was just too odd for them, or they had just been picking on her for so long that why would they change their ways now and instead decided to be cruel. My heart hurt so much for Carrie in that scene. I just felt so bad for her. I felt bad because she didn't even have one female friend that she could turn to. And that's gotta be really, really hard. And I can honestly say that I've seen somewhat similar behavior with some of my junior high students that I taught years ago. And a lot of that changed when they were getting ready to go into high school, when it was time for them to try out for cheerleading or dance team at their future high schools. And if their friends didn't make the team, all of a sudden they were cut off. They weren't friends anymore, even though they had been friends for a long time. And all of a sudden mean comments were made, or they were being excluded from things. And that just really makes me sad. And unfortunately, bullying and that kind of behavior is part of teen culture. And I find that it seems like it's happening earlier and earlier. Good morning. It is time for an update. Yesterday evening, I hosted my weekly Wednesday sprints, and I decided I would go ahead and read the manga that I picked out for Winterween, and I am happy to report that I completed it. So let me share my thoughts on Demon Slayer Volume 3. I'm still enjoying it. I love being able to see where Tanjiro and Nezuko are on their journey and what is happening next, getting them one step closer, hopefully, to finding a cure for Nezuko to not be a demon anymore. But yeah, I really loved not only revisiting some of our characters from the previous volume, but also meeting some new ones. So this is another 5-star for me, but I'm going to go ahead and use my notes because some of the names of these characters, especially the new characters, I need to look at them really in order to help with my pronunciation, which is not the best to begin with. But anyway, so we begin with Tanjiro and his sister fighting Kitbutsuji's servant. So Kitbutsuji is the main demon that turned Tanjiro's sister into a demon. So these servants have been sent by him to pretty much bring back the heads of Tanjiro and Tameo, who is the demon doctor that is helping Tanjiro out with finding a cure for his sister. So the demon that controls arrows is Yahaba, and the demon that controls Mari balls is Susamuru. I'm hoping that's how you pronounce it. But anyway, they are vicious, and Tanjiro has to figure out how to outsmart both of them. We also find out that Tameo, the demon doctor, who is also turned into a demon by Kitbutsuji, she has escaped him. She gives us a little bit of insight as to the things that the main demon tells everybody to kind of keep them under control. He really doesn't want any demons to gather or group together because he's really afraid of them and their abilities. So anyway, going back, poor Nezuko, she ends up getting injured and her regeneration is taking quite a bit of time. And Tanjiro also gets beat up pretty good. But the two of them decide that they're going to part ways with Tameo and the little boy that's devoted to Tameo. He's also a demon, and his name is Yushiro. So they decide that they're going to part ways because Tanjiro really needs to keep going on his journey. So along the way, he ends up meeting another demon slayer who is very wimpy and very afraid, and was hoping that he was going to die whenever he was doing his final tasks before he was, given the title of a demon slayer. And his name is Zenitsu Agatsuma. He ends up traveling with Tanjiro and Tanjiro's sister, and they come across two kids who are extremely afraid, and that leads Tanjiro and Zenitsu into this mansion that has different demons in it that are pretty gnarly. So there's some battling that goes on there, and that's pretty much where our story ends. I'm not going to say what really happened in the mansion, but it was kind of cool, some of the powers that these demons had in there. But yeah, just really enjoyed it and looking forward to reading volume 4 because like all the mangas, each volume ends on some kind of a cliffhanger. So that's what keeps you going. I'm so happy that the series is completed, so I don't have to wait for a manga to come out. Because I know when Andrew reads manga, a lot of times he's like, I can't wait for the next issue to come out. And sometimes it takes a long, for the new issue to come out. So anyway, that's where I'm at with the Demon Slayer manga. I was able to read one chapter of Voices in the Snow last night before I went to sleep. So I'm on chapter 8. And not a whole lot has happened since the last time I updated you. We're learning a little bit more about Doran, the man who found Claire and brought him into his home, his family home, which is called Winterbourne. He is supposedly the only person there because the rest of his family has gone away for the winter, because the winters in this area can be kind of brutal. I say supposedly he's alone, but Claire is noticing sometimes that there are some shadows in the hall, or she hears a noise above her when she's by herself. So she's not really sure what's going on. Is there somebody else there and Doran's not really telling her the truth? Or is it just because it's an old house? It seems like the house needs some repairs, especially like to the roof. So it's just, the atmosphere is kind of eerie for her right now, and it's dark also because there is no electricity. The power's out. Now, they do have a generator, but Doran tells her they don't really have a lot of fuel for the generator and that he tries to use it sparingly. So I'm not really sure if there are ghosts lurking in the shadows, and maybe that's what Claire is hearing, or maybe there really is somebody else there with Doran. Don't know, but it's keeping me intrigued enough to continue with the story. So I'm hoping to finish this one today. And then my other plan is to start and finish Shadow House: The Gathering. This would be my the first book in the series of Shadow House. So let me tell you a little bit about this story. Shadow House is calling you. Some houses are more than just haunted. They're hungry. Dash, Dylan, Poppy, Marcus, and Azumi don't know this at first. They each think they've been summoned to Shadow House for innocent reasons. But there's nothing innocent about Shadow House. Something within its walls is wickedly wrong. Nothing and nobody can be trusted. Hallways move, doors vanish, ghosts appear, children disappear, and the way out, that's disappeared too. So looking forward to starting this one today. I'm going to bring it with me to work, and I get a short little break, and I think I'm going to start it then and just kind of, read as much as I can after Voices in the Snow, because I would really, really, really like to be able to finish this one, especially since it was for the prompt to read a book with a house on the cover or house in the title. So that's where I'm at. I need to head off to work, and I'll update you later this afternoon. Well, I am leaving school. I only managed to read one chapter when I took my little break, and I was only introduced to one of the main characters, and that was Poppy. She is at a school for girls. She is apparently an orphan, and for some reason, she has a girl attached to her, but she can only see the girl in the mirror. It's like the girl is standing behind her, but she can only see her in the mirror. Now, Poppy is having some trouble with the other girls at school, in particular, a girl named Ashley. So there's a little bit of bullying going on there, and it causes Poppy to lash out in a way that gets her in trouble. And then she finds out something in the director's office that kind of surprises her, but not sure if the girl in the mirror has something to do with what she finds, or if there's something else at play. So like I said, I've only read one chapter, but I'm already intrigued. I'm hoping that I'll meet the other four characters right at the very beginning and then see how they're all connected in this Shadow House. But yes, I'm on my way home, and after feeding my dogs, I'm hoping that I can read for pretty much the rest of today. Okay, it is about 9:30 on Thursday night, and I am still reading for Winterween. I am not throwing in the towel yet. I have actually been playing musical chairs with my books. I started with Voices in the Snow, and it has taken me forever to read this book. Honestly, it does not seem like much is going on, and it seems like it's taken forever to get to the point. So I have made it to page 113, chapter 14, and pretty much Claire and Doran are just like, hanging out at this house, finding a little bit more about him. It's just like, I don't really know what they're supposed to be accomplishing. They're in and out the house. She wants to get back to her car to get her radio to get in touch with her sister. She's seeing some weird woman in the house, but Doran doesn't see him. So is it really a woman? Is it a ghost? Is he like knows something? I don't know. It's all very fishy. And I'm even kind of almost wondering if Claire is even alive herself. Maybe she's a ghost. Maybe that's why she's here. Maybe that's why all these weird incidences are happening and they're not really supposed to leave the property or the house or whatever. I don't know. At this point, I don't even care. I just want it to, I don't know, unfold a little bit faster. So I have decided that I am putting this one to the side. So I'm going to finish reading it eventually, but I'm just not going to be able to finish it by the time Winterween is over with. I'm just not. And I don't even feel like reading it tomorrow. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm ready to put it to the side because I'm frustrated with Claire and the whole situation that she's in. So that's all I'm saying about Voices in the Snow. So I switched gears and I went back to reading Shadow House of the Gathering. And I'm actually enjoying this one. I'm enjoying this one immensely better than Voices in the Snow. This one's actually much creepier. The atmosphere in the house is eerie and it's very mysterious. I have met all 5 of the kids that have been brought to the house. It's called Larkspur. Each of the kids have been summoned to this house for different reasons. What's so odd to me is that, except for the chauffeur that brings the 2 actors to the house, no parents go with their kids. It's just very bizarre. They like leave a station and then they go to the house. No one is there to greet them. There's no adults at the house. It's just very, very eerie. And what's even creepier is that they are seeing things in the house that is just very off-putting. Like they are seeing kids like with masks on their faces. I don't know. It's just really creepy to me. All the furniture is really old and they are told that they need to meet in the library. It's just very creepy. Creepy. Now, one thing I do love about this book, and I cannot wait to finish reading the book so I can play the game. It tells you can go on your tablet or phone to scholastic.com Shadow House. And when you go to that app, you can watch a trailer for the book. And then there's a game that you play. And you've got to, they call them, I have never heard of this term before. It's called sigils, sigils. But that's what they look like. They're the shapes. I don't know if you can see the shape right there. And what you do is you start the game and you draw the shape with your finger on your tablet or your phone. I tried it on my phone first and it didn't really work. So I don't know if my phone is too new for the version of the app. Not sure. So I went on my iPad and then I could hear the sound and I had a much better time tracing the symbol or whatever. Well, I went through the first symbol. It opens up a story, a ghost story. As you're going through and reading the ghost story, you get to choose what the characters do to depend on, I guess, how they survive. So I did the first one. I unlocked the first one and made my choices, and it was creepy. That story was very creepy, but it has to do with the house. The game matches the house that these kids are currently in. So you're learning a little bit of history of what happened prior to this group of kids showing up at Shadow House. So I'm very excited about finishing that book. I have about 95 pages, I think, left, and I'll be finished with it. I decided to take a break from Shadow House and pick Dear Laura back up, and I'm so glad that I did. I am halfway through, and I am sucked in. I need to find out what is going to happen. I really like Laura as a character. I have so much empathy for her. But I did go back and reread the first 3 chapters. There were some things I obviously missed. I think I was probably falling asleep as I was reading those chapters because I was waiting until I was getting in bed to read them. I have found out some more information about what happened the day that Laura went back to get something from her house. She comes out and she sees what happens with Bobby. Time is passing and she receives a letter on her 14th birthday. In that letter, it is from someone named X. It is a man. He says that he knows Bobby and gives her information. He tells her that she'd be able to find out where he is if she gives him something personal. He will give her some clues. Well, the things that he asked for just really, gross me out. She goes along with this because, she wants to find out what happened to her friend. Apparently, he sends her a letter every year on her birthday, and every year he asks for something in exchange, and then he gives her some clues. So what I also like is it's dual timelines, because you're going back in the past and finding out about Laura from that point of when Bobby disappears, and how she's doing each year and what's going on in her life. And then you're in like present time, and she is literally out in the woods trying to get to a destination. I'm excited to continue with that one and finish. I want to go take my shower and kind of revive myself a little bit. And I am going to read as long as I can read until I fall out. So I probably will not update y'all tonight. I'll probably wait and update y'all in the morning. It's my last update for Winterween. Woohoo! So excited. I finished my last 2 books yesterday morning, and I so wanted to film my wrap up yesterday, but I had so much to do yesterday before driving over to the South Shore. I was meeting up with Kelsi. We had our gift exchange for Christmas and our birthdays, and then we went out to dinner together. Afterwards, I went to my dad's to spend the night, and then I spent the day with my dad today. I just got home a little while ago, and I'm ready to wrap up Winterween 2025. I'm happy to say that I enjoyed my first Gemma Amor book. So glad that I picked Dear Laura back up and finished it. I really enjoyed it. This book is filled with a lot of tension. It kept me engaged throughout the entire book. I really liked the character of Laura. I had lots of empathy for her. She is one tough cookie. She goes through a lot in the 30 plus years that she has to deal with this disturbing guy that is constantly asking her for things that are just like so inappropriate. And what she has to go through for one of the requests is just really horrific. Now, I do have one small complaint, and that is that I was not 100% satisfied with the ending, and that is because of how it impacted Laura. I just did not think it was realistic with all that Laura had endured all these years dealing with this guy. But because I enjoyed the story overall, I ended up giving it 4 stars. And I would be happy to pick up something more in the future by Gemma Amor. My last book for Winterween, The Gathering, the first book in the Shadow House series, and apparently this is the first book I have read by Dan Pawlowski. For some reason, I thought he was the author of Skeleton Man, but that was actually Joseph Bruchac. I enjoyed this book. It was pretty scary, I think, for a middle grade book. It has a very creepy atmosphere. I love that it takes place in an old house. Things are revealed about the ghost children that live at Larkspur. There is a big twist at the end. I can't wait to continue reading this series. I ended up giving it 5 stars, and I'm looking forward to also continuing the game for this first book. Many thanks to Gabby for hosting Winterween. I had so much fun reading and completing the daily prompts on Instagram. I think I had a pretty successful Winterween. I ended up with 3 5 stars and 1 4 star. And even though I did not complete Voices in the Snow, I will complete it before the winter is out. I will assure you about that, because even though it was not going as fast as I wanted, I was still enjoying it, and I still want to know what's going on with Claire and this Doran guy. What about you? Did you participate in Winterween? If so, what was your favorite read during the readathon? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate you watching, and until our paths cross again, stay amazing and be adventurous.